everyone. This month's STEM Families Virtual Home Lab, which, can you believe it, is our very last one, will share practical tips, virtual experiments, and other concrete tools for families and educators to help kids become makers, inventors, and problem solvers. Even those with little time, few resources, and no STEM exposure or teaching experience can use these tools to engage their kids' learning. STEM education leaders from across the country have been offering a variety of activities for different age groups to engage students in maker experiences with resources that you have around the house. Before we begin, just a couple of things. I can hear some of you don't have your microphones muted. If you can, go ahead and make sure that's muted for now. We do want to meet some of you, and we'll ask you to unmute when that happens. We also recommend sharing your thoughts and questions in the chat. We have one of our education experts, Julie Hasfier, the Global Director of Learning, Design, and Services for TIES, in there answering your questions, as well as Guy LaBelle and David Tong from the Tiger Woods Foundation, TGR Foundation. I don't know which one we're supposed to say, Jason, you'll have to tell me. We'll also be posting a PDF of the PowerPoint and links to resources in the chat for everyone to have easy access to. If you want to put some questions in the chat, it's a great place, parents, for you to ask your questions about how to help your kids or how to extend this learning. And kids, if you just have any questions about your activity and either your parents don't know the answer or they're not there with you, everyone in that chat will be there to help you. We'll also post a video of this recording to our website. It is nearing the end of Maker May and the STEM learning ecosystems, and we've had some really great activities this month and resources for teachers and families. The goal of Maker May is to find a problem that you want to solve in your home and design or build a solution to that problem. Record the process, take pictures, and share with the ecosystems using the hashtag SLEmakers, hashtag SLEmakers. So Keisha, can you show that graphic that we have? I think it's coming up here. There it is. So this is a really simple design process. If you've been on a couple of our calls, you've already seen it. People like engineers and scientists use a really similar process to solve the problems that they're trying to address. So first, we talk about identifying the problem. What's the thing you want to fix? Talk to your friends, talk to your family, watch people, and see what things they struggle with. Try it out, play around with it, take it apart, see what you could make a little bit better, improve it, and then communicate. We have to talk about our solutions because we all learn from each other. We've learned a lot about this over the past month in our different activities. And this week, we're going to focus on that last step, step 4, communicate. So far, many of you have come up with a problem. You've designed several prototypes that offer solutions. Now it's time to let everyone know about those ideas. Take pictures and videos of what you've come up with. There's so many ways to communicate your ideas with the community. Have your parents or guardians share on social media, make a commercial, make a magazine or flyer. My kids love making videos in iMovie and commercials, things that you can print, hand out, or show to your community and your family. There are all kinds of free apps that allow you to design shareable documents. Be creative and don't be afraid to share your ideas. If you need help with this, that's something you can talk about in the chat, and the folks who are in there can help you come up with ideas. I know we have a whole lot of STEM families who are on here today. We want to introduce some of them. So if you're interested in being introduced today and talking to everyone for a minute, go ahead and raise your hand, get that hand up high. And we'd love to talk to a couple of you. A lot of you don't have your cameras on right now, and that's okay if you don't want it on. But if you'd like to share your camera, go ahead and turn that on. Is anybody interested in saying hi this morning? It's okay if not. Sure, we have, the name is slightly covered for me. Looks like the Brinsco family.
Say hi, I'm mute. Hi, this is Colton. Hi.
Hi, Colton, how are you doing today?
Good. He's my STEM kid. He likes to invent and create things.
What's something that you've invented or created during this quarantine? Anything interesting?
Tell him about the thing for the dog.
I created this thing for our dog so he wouldn't jump on furniture.
Oh, that sounds really, I need one of those. How does it work? What does it do?
Well, I flipped the switch and it sets off a siren.
That's pretty cool. We have a similar problem. We have a cat who decided that she likes people food, and if you're not fast enough, she will jump on the counter, pick up a whole pork chop, and drag it across the house. We need one of your sirens. So when you go to market, make sure you let me know.
Well,
Anybody else want to say hi before we get started?
not yet.
That's okay. That's okay. We will go to more of you. I'm going to be, as we start talking and as Jason starts talking here in a second, I'm going to be clicking on the please share your video button. But if you don't want to, that is still okay. But try really hard to, if it's okay with you and your parents, to share. We love to see you and see the things you're building, and everybody else likes to see those as well.
Post it in the chat.
So, in the spirit of communicating solutions, I want to introduce our guest host who will be sharing a solution to an experience that we're all having in some way. Stress, anxiety, depression, other mental health issues are elevated during times like these, and it's important to have a way to cope with what you're experiencing. I know I like to listen to loud music sometimes or read a book. Everybody has different things that they like to do to help them de-stress. And this is a really, really cool activity that I'm excited to see what you all make. So our friends at TGR, a Tiger Woods charity, are here to walk us through an SEL strategy that will help families, educators, and kids of all ages stop, relax, and be mindful of what exactly is happening both internally and externally. So to help us through this process, we have Jason Porter, who has 18 plus years of experience in STEM education and holds a BS in microbiology and an MS Ed in education. Experience in many different teaching and learning formats. Jason has taught at college, high school, and middle school levels, including outreach experiences with upper elementary students and informal education through groups like Boy Scouts of America. Jason oversees STEM professional development at TGR Foundation, focusing on the East Coast of the US and globally. Jason also enjoys birding and camping with his family. So Jason, how are you doing today?
I am doing excellent, and I'm really excited to get ready doing this mind jar with all of our new friends here.
I am too. You know, we've had a lot of really cool experiences, but I think the best ones are the ones where our kids get to get their hands a little dirty and actually kind of do something. Why do you think that? And I know the kids like it better too. Why do you think that is? Why do you think they just want to get messy?
Well, I mean, just getting goopy is fun, right? I mean, just experimenting with things, see how it's going to work, and usually kids don't have to clean it up, so that's great too, right?
Yeah, and I think it's important for everybody to remember. I know I forget sometimes that all of our kids and our adults learn a whole lot better when they're touching the thing, when they're doing the thing. We can only learn so much by listening. So we're going to share also today that if you don't have those materials that we mentioned before, which is, if you haven't gathered them yet, warm water, a jar with a lid like a mason jar, something along those lines, corn syrup, that's your parents might call it Karo syrup, or glitter glue, some glitter, and dish soap. But if you don't have those materials to live build the mindfulness jar today, that's okay. Not only will you have access to the directions and you'll learn about it, you can build it in the future, but we're putting a link in the chat box to a virtual mindful jar using the application Scratch. So I'd really encourage everybody, whether or not you've had the opportunity, will have the opportunity to build today, to go ahead and try that version too. I think it's really interesting sometimes to see the difference between virtual solutions and kind of models and practical hands-on solutions. And we'd like to thank Bana from the Biomimicry Institute for this edition. So Jason, what do we need to do first?
Yeah, well, why don't we get started with building our mind jar? And just to get you all a little excited about what we're going to do here, here is our mind jar. When we first look at that, it's like, what? That's just a jar of water, right? That's not exciting at all, right? But give it a little shake, and you've got a nice little dance of glitter. Look at that. Isn't that cool? All right. So if you're excited and want to build a mind jar, let me see your hand. Who wants to build a mind jar? Who's excited? Excellent. Me too. That's why my hand's up. So let's go ahead and get started doing that. All right. So I'm going to go through some of our supplies first, just so we all know what we need to have to get started. So first off, you want to have some kind of clear container. I have a mason jar here, but something plastic, something you can see through would be excellent. And it's really important that you have a lid, because we're going to shake this. And if you shake without a lid, we're going to make a huge mess, which isn't good. So make sure you have a lid. Excellent. I see some lids out there. That is outstanding. We are also going to need some corn syrup, or that Karo syrup. Mine's in a huge beaker, but however you have it in the bottle is great. If you don't have the Karo syrup, that's okay. We can also use glitter glue. So here's some glitter glue. So if you've got some of that, glitter glue and water will also work, and we'll talk about how we can make that happen. You, of course, and this is going to be the absolute fun part, you want some glitter. And I've got my favorite colors, green and blue. So we've got some different glitter there. Whatever you have is great. Oh, I see some gold glitter. Looks excellent. Outstanding. And you're also going to want a little bit of soap. Okay, so I have a big bottle of soap here. We're only going to need one little squirt. We just need a little bit of soap, and that'll make this all come together. Okay, so we're about to get started making our mind jar. Before we do, though, I want to take a moment and just talk with the parents out there. So parents, I wonder if you've ever had this experience. And this is talking, I'm a parent as well. My son is now 13, but can definitely remember these experiences when, I want to do this really creative making experience with my kids, but I don't exactly know, how do I lead them versus taking it over? How do I help them get really involved and really included in the activity and not just doing it myself? So I'd love to hear from parents out there in the chat. How do you do that? How do you inspire your kids to make? How do you inspire your kids to put things together while not just taking it over and not just doing them and showing them how to do it, but really getting that curiosity going and have them learn exactly by touching and doing? Would love to hear if you have any thoughts about that. As we go through, you'll notice that I'm going to be using a lot of questioning techniques, asking lots of questions. And I kind of suggest this is a way that can help with that to avoid some of the frustration of how these projects can sometimes go and really make them fun learning experiences. So please pay attention to that as we go. And we'll talk a little bit at the end how you could use some of those techniques to keep this going. Okay, so boring stuff over. Kids, you ready? Want to make a mind jar? Excellent. All right, so let's get to it. All right. So the first thing we're going to do, and I'm going to switch my camera here a bit so you can see my jar. So first thing we're going to do is we are going to put our jar down on our workspace. So find yourself some room so you can put your jar down. I would suggest if you've got it, put a paper towel or something down. Some of these materials are a little sticky. So just be in a place where you can add the materials. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add our corn syrup. Now, if you don't have the corn syrup, you can go ahead and just pause in this moment and you'll pick up with us when we add water. But if you've got some corn syrup, you're going to add that. And I'll show you that you're going to add corn syrup about a third of the way. So about there on the jar. Okay, so you're going to add about that much into the jar, just a little bit in the bottom. No big deal if you add a little too much or add a little too little. We can fix that later. Okay, so hopefully everyone's coming along with me. So we're going to pour our corn syrup. I'm working hard not to make a mess. If you need some help from a parent, please get some help.
And Jason, is this the place where if we don't have corn syrup, glitter glue's okay? And I saw somebody asking about vegetable oil in the chat.
Yeah, the vegetable oil is interesting. So let's try it, right? Let's see. I think it's gonna work a little bit differently, but yeah, vegetable oil's fine. Yeah, so this actually would be a fine spot. So instead of the corn syrup, if you've got the glitter glue, then go ahead and just add about the same amount or so, maybe a third of the jar with glitter glue. So if you've got that glitter glue, go ahead and add that into your jar now. That'd be great. Okay. All right. So next step, and let me just see some big thumbs up if we are ready to go on. I don't want to leave everyone in the dust here. So let's make sure we're ready to go. Oh, look at that. I saw some amazing thumbs up. Excited. Good. Parents are in there. All right. All right. I'm happy. Let's go. So next step, now let's add some water. All right. So you're just going to add, and let me actually show you where we're going to add it to. You're going to add it just to about the bend in your jar. So just about right there. We're going to leave ourselves a little bit of room. So if we want to add more corn syrup or more water, we can, and we'll talk about why we might want to do that. So let's just add our water. Okay. So we're going to add some water to the mind jar here. Okay, I'm just going to go to that bend to the jar. And I want you to notice as you're adding the water, what happens to the corn syrup? What do you see in your jar? I'm going to hold that up a little bit. When you're looking at my jar, looking at your jar, what do you see? Do you see one layer? Do you see two layers? Do the water and the corn syrup, are they different from each other? Are they the same thinness or thickness, or do they see different? What do you think? So I would love to have some people share in the chat some of those ideas. What do you notice? What do you see about your mind jar so far? Okay, so just making those observations. All right, so right now you should either have corn syrup in the bottom or glitter glue in the bottom and water on top, and have water to about that bend right there in the jar. Okay? And we're about to come up on the really fun, exciting part. So if you are ready to go ahead and give me those big thumbs up. Let me see who's ready. Oh, excellent. Okay. Yeah, some people are like, yeah, hurry up. Okay, here we go. So now we are going to add some glitter. Okay. So if you have glitter glue and glitter and want to add glitter at this step, add some more in there. That's great. In my opinion, you cannot have too much glitter. And so I am going to add, I have this blue and I have this green fine glitter. And so I'm going to add a little bit of that. And then I also have blue and green coarser glitter. And so I'm going to add some of that too. Whatever you had is fine. Okay. So go ahead and add that to your mine jar. So we'll do that together. Glitter's messy, so be careful.
So I love the glitter part, Jason, because it's really the gift that keeps on giving. We get to keep finding glitter around the house for another 6 months to a year.
Exactly. Yeah, you'll never get rid of that glitter, but that's okay. It'll be a great reminder of our mine jar together, right?
I see some really interesting conversations in the chat too about Jason, about people who don't have all of the supplies, and so they're starting to think about an experiment with what could they try that might or might not work. Somebody's mentioning cupcake sprinkles instead of glitter. The nice thing about an experiment like this, I think, is that it doesn't matter, right? If it doesn't work, we can dump it out and try again.
I mean, that's the whole point of this, right? Is let's just try what works. Let's see what we learn from doing this. When we're done, I'm going to absolutely suggest this is not the end. This is the start. So what things can you change and what will it change about your mine jar? So yeah, that's outstanding. The sprinkles, I'm not going to give away the surprise. There is something interesting about the sprinkles, but if you've got those, try it and let's see what happens. Okay. All right. So I've got my glitter in here. And so one thing I want to ask before we move on with the glitter is what happened to the glitter? Did the glitter fall to the very bottom of the jar? And I'll hold mine up so you can see what happened in mine. Did it fall to the bottom and hit the corn syrup? Did it sit on top of the jar? What happened to your glitter? Okay. And why do you think that happened? So Jeremy, I think this might be, if there's some people who'd like to share, I think this might be a good point to hear from some people, or at least here in the chat, of what happened to their glitter and why they think that happened.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from some of our friends out there who are building things. So if you've either what you expected to happen happened, or it didn't, even if you messed up a little bit, that's okay too. If you want to either share, ask a quick question, go ahead and raise your hand and I'm going to take a peek. Jason, if you could stop screen sharing for a second so that we can see everyone a little bit bigger. But go ahead and raise your hand. Keep those hands raised up high if you're interested in sharing a little bit. I see our friend Lucy there raising her hand. Lucy, what have you created so far and how's it turning out?
Did my mine jar, I added some glitter. The glitter's still on top of it, it's falling. And I added a little bit of yellow food coloring, one drop. Whoa. And it's really cool and like falling.
Very cool. So Lucy added another ingredient that we weren't even talking about, which is awesome. And then so her glitter is sort of slowly falling, sitting on the top and kind of falling through. I see Mateus over there is asking to share as well. You have to click your unmute button, Mateus. Do you see that there? There you are. So what did you do?
Like 3 or 4 types of glitter glue, and it's kind of swirling.
So you did all different types of glitter glue, which is interesting, not just one, dumped several in there to see what would happen. Maybe we have time for one more, and then we'll come back to you to share in a little bit. Anybody else want to share real quick? I see Sam over there. Sam, what did you want to share?
Hi.
What's it doing, Sam?
So, the glitter first, because this green right here is wider. Because I put a green heavier, so the glitter will flip, okay?
Very, very cool. Thank you for sharing, Sam. All right, we're going to keep coming back to you. And again, if you're on here and you're a student in particular and you don't have your camera on, go ahead and turn that camera on. I see some other people raising their hands, and we will make sure to get to more of you in a little bit. Jason?
Yeah, excellent. Thanks so much. Thank you all for sharing. That's amazing. Sam, I love that because like it's interesting. Some of the glitter seems like it's going to fall, some of it's going to sit. So it means the properties of that glitter and the properties of what's in the jar matter, right? So we're going to get some different things depending on exactly what's happening there. So I'm now going to point out something that can help you mix the glitter better. So at this point, we could just mix our jar, but it wouldn't mix as well. So we're going to do something that'll help us. So go ahead and grab your soap. So if you don't have soap yet, go ahead and grab soap near you. We're only going to use one squirt, so you don't need like 20 gallons of soap. We just need a little squirt. And what I want you to notice, so don't add it yet, we're going to add a squirt, and then I want you to notice what happens to the glitter. If the glitter is sitting on top, what happens? Okay, and so I'm going to go ahead and do that in my camera. So I'm going to add a good squirt of soap, and then you can watch my glitter. So my glitter is starting to fall a little bit after I added that soap. So it's falling on my water layer and falling into that corn syrup layer. All right, so look at your jar. What do you see happening? When you added that soap, did glitter start to fall? Or was it already on the bottom? What did you see happening?
The glitter started to fall.
Oh, cool. So I don't know exactly who that was, but it sounds like your glitter started to fall too. That's outstanding.
And keep raising those hands if you'd like to share. Jason, does it matter if I use just a tiny bit of soap or if I put a whole bunch of soap in?
So if the more soap you use to a point, the glitter is going to fall faster, but it'll also make it sudsier and a little harder to see. So that's why you want to add just about one squirt of soap. That'll give us the effect we want and help it to mix, but it won't make it so sudsy. There won't be so much, white foam on the top at the end. All right. All right. So now we're getting oh, go ahead, Jeremy.
Our friend Samir, has been a regular, has been on, I think, every single week, would like to share. Samir, you're unmuted. There you are. Can you share?
Yeah. So what happened to mine is instead of just going down, it would go down, but instead it would squiggle its path down and go kind of weird, So instead of going just straight down, it would squiggle everywhere, and then finally it would go down.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's really interesting.
Yeah.
And then our friend Dale would like to share as well. Hi, Dale.
We use vegetable oil, and it goes to the top.
That is interesting. So it still separates, but it separates the opposite of the corn syrup.
Yeah.
I'm really curious. I'm really glad that you tried the vegetable oil, because as we go through and create our bottles, I'm curious to see how it looks different with the oil on top of the water versus on bottom. Jason, what would cause that? Why would some of this oil go all the way to the bottom and some of it sit on top of the water?
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. So there's a big word here we're going to throw out: density, right? So density has to do with the weight and the volume of substances, but so some are denser than others. And so we can look at that anything that's going to be really dense is going to move towards the bottom, and anything that's less dense will be at the top. So that would allow us to look at these corn syrup and water and oil and decide which are denser than others based on their properties. So yeah, I'm really glad the oil came into that. Really neat stuff.
My coworkers, Julie and Keisha, call me dense a lot, so I assume that it's something to do with this jar. Jason, what's up next?
Yeah, I think that's a little different, Jeremy. Yeah, so what we're going to do now is we're going to take our Mind Jar, and so put your lid on the top of it. So go ahead and make sure your lid is down there really good. If you'd like to, this is where the super glue comes in. And so if you wanted to glue your lid down with some super glue, you could. You don't necessarily have to do that right now. That's just to make sure the lid doesn't come off. But make sure your lid is on there really tight, because we're about to shake. But don't shake until you've got a good lid, because you're going to make your parents mad at me, and I don't want that. I don't want all those emails. So make sure that lid's on, and we are going to shake our Mind Jar. So give it a nice, good shake once you've got a tight lid on. Nice, good shake. Okay, we're getting it all shook up. Might be a little sudsy, but you let it settle a little bit. And what you'll notice is that you start to get that great dance of glitter, right? So when you shake this all up and you've got now one layer, so it's one solution, you don't have those two separate layers anymore, you're getting all this really cool dance of glitter all over the place. And so if you're seeing that, show that to the camera. I'd love to see what your mind jars are looking like. Oh, that's a cool one. Awesome. I think, is that Sam? That one's really cool. Dale. Oh, I think is that with the vegetable oil, that little blop at the bottom? Or is that our glitter glue?
Yeah, I saw in the chat that Lucy noticed that the food coloring isn't going into the corn syrup. So it's kind of two different colors in there too, which is interesting.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's really neat. That's cool. All right, see if I see some other ones. Okay, so I'm seeing some really awesome mind jars here, so that's good. And I'm actually going to switch one real quick. Every time you make them, they come out slightly different because of exactly how much you add of the different ingredients. So that's one of the cool things about them is you get some really different effects depending on the glitter you added in the corn syrup, and really fun thing to make. So hopefully you're having fun making this here today. All right, so I'd like to switch gears to talk a little bit about how we can use our mind jars, okay? And so I want to ask everyone a question. And so I know you're all kind of making a little bit still, but if you can hear me, it'd be great. Does anyone ever get frustrated sometimes? Does anyone ever get stir crazy in the house? Does that ever happen to you? Yeah. Thanks, parents. Yeah, it happens sometimes, right? You get a little upset, get a little frustrated. And, you know, your mind, when it's calm, might look like this mind jar, right? The glitter's in the bottom, you've got the water, you're calm, it's controlled. But then when you get upset, it might be like this, right? Your thoughts are all over the place. It's a swirl of ideas and emotions. You're not really sure what to do. And it's just hard to control, right? It's hard to kind of know how to calm down and focus and be in the moment. And that can unfortunately, that can sometimes happen when we're doing some of this making, when we're building these things that it doesn't come out exactly right. Sometimes we can get a little frustrated and our mind gets all like this. And then it's really hard to kind of focus and get this back together. So I'd like to show you a way that you can use your mind jar, not just as a fun making project, but also a way to help kind of center yourself and calm you down. So before we do that practice, I want all the kids out there to help me make a model of a brain. And we're going to do it like this. Okay, so hold your hand up like that. Okay, so everybody can hold your hand, just bend your thumb in a little bit. So this is going to be our model of a brain. And you've got two major parts. You have, in your fingers up here, you have your thinking brain. And so that's the part of your brain that you use that for your homework, you use that for building and making things, that's for reason and for thought. It's a great part of your brain. It allows you to be really creative and do all the things that you do. And then you've got another part of your brain right here, which is your animal brain. This is also a great part of your brain because it helps you react. So if you need to move quickly and keep yourself safe, so that's the part of your brain, that animal brain, that does that. And most of the time, your brain, so you can just fold your fingers down, is connected, right? So your thinking brain and your animal brain is in balance, and you're able to, have quick movements, but also kind of think and be reason and be calm and do something like build a mind jar. But sometimes your mind gets out of control, right? Out of balance, like this, and your animal brain takes over. And you get really frustrated, really upset, and it's really hard for you to focus on what's going on. Okay, and some of you told me that happens to you. That definitely happens to me. Okay, when that happens, and we want to bring our brain back together, want to bring it back centered, we can use our mind jar. So I'd love to right now do a quick practice with you to show you how the mind jar can be a way to really kind of control and bring our brain back together when we're ever feeling uncalm. Okay, do you want to do that with me? If anybody wants to practice with me, let me see a big thumbs up.
I need this, Jason. I need it.
Yeah, I need it now too. All right, so here's what we're going to do. So go ahead and take your mind jar. You can use mine if you don't have one in front of you. And we're just going to give it a few shakes, and you're going to look at it. Okay, so I just want you to kind of focus your mind, forget some of the things around you, focus your eyes on the glitter, watch it fall, watch it rise. And as we're doing that, I'm going to ask you to take a deep breath. So take one big deep breath in. Hold it for a second, and then another one out. Okay, and so all the time we're watching that glitter. If you need to, give another shake. So another deep breath in. Watch Watching the glitter fall, watching it rise, and out. Let's do one more. And in. Hold for a second, watching the glitter, and out. Okay. So how do you feel? Calmer? Better? I hope so. I hope you can kind of see that this mind jar is a really good way. If you keep this somewhere nearby, it just kind of gets your attention back. It allows take that brain when it's uncontrolled and brings it back together. It focuses it on something. You can watch that glitter and see it falling through the jar and just get you to calm and get you to be back with your thinking brain kind of controlled again. Okay, so I really invite you, let's use these mind jars as a way to stay calm and bring ourselves back to control whenever we're feeling really uneasy, especially right now when we may not be able to do the things that we want to do all the time.
Jason, I'm curious as we're thinking about this, because we've had some chat conversations a few weeks ago, and some of our friends were sharing how they do things like meditate or exercise or things like that to calm down. I'm curious if any of the young people who are on here today have any ideas about how they might use this jar by itself or with other things to calm down. Does anyone have anything that they're stressed about that they might use this jar to help with? It's kind of a big question, so we might not get any takers on it, but I'm curious if any of you out there can think of a time when you might use this jar when you get frustrated about something. I'll start with one. Maybe that'd help. I know that sometimes I get really bored and maybe even a little bit angry that I can't go over to see my friends or go to a restaurant with them and things like that. So I might use something like this jar to calm myself down a little bit and get myself to an okay place. Does anybody have anything like that they are working with and trying to be stronger about? Hey, Samir, you always have something to say over there. What's been, can you think of a time when you might use this jar?
Like, sometimes, like, since, like, school's closed, we were going on a really cool field trip, a really fun field trip, and, like, we can't go to it now, like, really bummed out, so I could start using this now.
Yeah, absolutely. Lucy, what about you? What's you were just saying something in the chat. When are times that you might need a way to relax?
Quarantine and COVID-19.
Yeah, this whole thing can be pretty stressful, right? This is all weird and kind of hard. Anybody else have anything to share about that before we kind of go on a little bit? Sounds good. Oh, I'm sorry. I do see one more over there. The Crawford House. There you go.
What did you want to share? We might have lost our thought.
Listen, it happens to me basically every day, so don't worry about it. If it comes back, just let us know, raise your hand or share, and then we can kind of go from there.
Thanks.
All right. So what else?
Yeah, so I'd love to kind of address parents for a second too, and kind of get some of their thoughts and how they saw me kind of go through this activity. So hopefully you noticed as we were sharing here that I was doing a lot of questioning, and Jeremy was helping with that as well. So it's really important in these kind of activities to ask your kids lots of questions. And so David, if you could share a slide that we have that can help with this. So these kind of simple questions that you can ask, hopefully you can see that on the screen okay. These can really be great for guiding kids through activities, and again, making it so that it doesn't get frustrating for them and for you, that they're able to do a lot of the activity and take care of it without you feeling like you have to do it for them. And just these simple questioning techniques, these are things that we work with teachers with all the time, can really drive kids to want to do more things. So just simple questions like, so what do you think? what do you think's happening? So ask them about the glitter and where's it sitting and why? Why do you think the glitter was sitting there? Tell me more about that. Or how did you know? What's your evidence from that said that was happening? Why did the soap cause the glitter to fall through? How do you know that? What other test would you want to do to figure that out? So hopefully these are some things that have been kind of helpful in ways that we can guide our kids through these activities. It makes it a lot more fun to make with them and enjoyable. We really see them kind of getting inspired and wanting to try new things. And that's definitely something I would love to actually ask. So David, you can stop sharing that for a second. Would love to ask some of the families out there, Jeremy, and you can call on people if anyone wants to share. And what would you want to do next? So with your mind jar, what would you want to test? What are some things that you noticed that you would want to try to see if it comes out different? Any thoughts? I think you're muted, Jeremy.
I sure am. That's about the third time I've done that today. I was just saying, I see my daughter Lila up there, and she has some kind of a crazy concoction. Lila, what did you do differently than what Jason was doing? And what would you like to try to do next?
Well, I don't have the corn thingy, so I put in glue, and then I ran out of clear glue, so I started putting in white glue, and that just made it keep on getting lighter. And then I started adding in food dye, like every single color of my food dye. So
I can tell. Yeah, there's a lot going on there.
And so I tried putting white back in, but it's not working.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to go back. So what now that you know that, so what did you learn from what you did do, and what do you think you might try if you do this again next time?
To actually have that corn thingy and not put in as much dish soap. So there's like a good inch there, of dish soap.
Yeah, and that's what's great about this type of thing, right? Is parents, is that one of the things we try to do is sometimes we might lay out kind of some steps, but if kids want to vary from those steps, that's a great thing to encourage them to do. Let them see in a safe place what happens when you change things. I saw in the chat somebody talking about variables, which is a great vocabulary word for us to use with our kids, to talk about what are the variables, what's different between this batch of mindfulness jar goop and this batch of mindfulness jar goop. And it lets them start to discover what the cause and effect are of each of those different ingredients. I know we had some other people who wanted to share. So if you could either raise your hand if you're on camera, or if you're not on camera, or even if you are, go ahead and say something in the chat. Looks like the Brinsko family wants to share again. What did you discover, and what might you do differently next time?
Well, we actually went online and looked up last night substitutes for corn syrup, and we found that honey or agave could be used. So we used agave, and it worked just the same as corn syrup. Well, so that's just something else maybe that people could use if they don't have corn syrup.
Yeah, and it's things that I guess I wouldn't have thought. I would have thought vegetable oil would have worked exactly the same, and it doesn't. It separates differently, and I would have thought the agave doesn't work at all.
Right, this one, agave sank to the bottom just like corn syrup does. Yeah.
I love that. I love learning about kind of new options and things, and I know that a lot of how we learn these things is in our house is just through letting our kids dump things into different jars and see what happens. And sometimes that means that the toy is ruined, and that's okay. We try it again with something else. Anybody else want to share what they've learned? It looks like our friend Samir and his sister had some things to share. So what did you guys discover?
So I discovered that so I was experimenting and I made a new batch. And for like this one we used xanthan gum. And so like now what happens is it doesn't move at all. If you can see, it doesn't move at all. Like it just stays there. Like that's something like that was pretty cool to me.
So why do you think, and I don't know the answer, why do you think it just sort of stays in place with the xanthan gum?
Maybe it's pretty thick, so like it won't like really it wouldn't let the glitter move even if you added glue. Like xanthan gum plus.
Yeah, that's Samir, that's really great. I see Julie is mentioning in the chat, parents, that all of this ties to the next generation science standards, which are the standards in most states. In some states, they change the name and change it a little bit, but in most of the states, those are really close to the standards. And it has, and she's asking, what does density have to do? Do you remember that word density, Samir? What does that have to do you think, with the glitter staying put?
It means like density means like how much matter is in like one in it like an object. Like if there's like two objects, like one like a rock and like a ping pong ball. Another one, like the rock will have more density than the ping pong ball.
I think yeah. So what about the xanthan gum? Do you think it is more or less dense than the other things that you were playing with?
I think it's more dense.
Seems to make sense to me. Thank you, Samir. I see Sam back there asking to talk again. Sam, what did you want to share?
So I discovered that you can put water in it, and it kind of look like cool. I haven't tried it yet, but I think it could be like that.
You discovered that if you put water in it, it might look a little bit different, adding some more water, having it more watery and less soapy. Anybody else find or discover anything very cool? That's okay. This is a really great experiment to keep playing with. Something that I might encourage families to do is to, keep some mason jars on hand or dump these out and not super glue them, and keep trying over the summer. Maybe even log what the different things are that you're trying and what you're putting in there to see how they make different things, and see if you can come up with the perfect recipe for yours. Mateus, do you want to share yours real quick before we go back to Jason? There it is.
I forgot what I added, but for some reason now it looks like toxic.
It does. I love that kind of toxic color. That's pretty cool. You could trick someone. One thing that people who do a lot of experiments do is kind of write down everything they're putting in to each particular batch so that they can go back. If they make the perfect one and then don't remember what they put in, it can be really frustrating. So it's a good idea, if you keep experimenting, to try to do that. Jason, what else should our friends be thinking about for the rest of the summer to do with these jars, both on the mindfulness side and the jar side?
Yeah, so I definitely invite you, so thinking on the mindfulness side, to keep this somewhere nearby, and really to kind of build in some mindfulness practices as part of your day or anytime that you're feeling like you're not calm. Because I think what you'll learn is over time, if you get in the habit of when remember your mind is like this, when your animal brain is kind of taking over, to just take some deep breaths and take a look at your mind jar. It'll really be a good way to calm you down, and give you a strategy, give you a way to do that. We don't know exactly what's going to continue happening this summer, and we might need some habits that just help us stay centered so we can continue to work on these things. So really invite you to do that, and really glad that you joined us for that practice today. One thing I just want to point out when we were thinking about density and kind of the science, and so one of the things that's happening with my jar, hold up here a little bit, is that a lot of the glitter is sinking, but some of the glitter is actually floating. And so I've noticed that on some of my other mine jars too. And so I've played around with adding more corn syrup or more water, and then notice what happens to the glitter, how much of it is falling, how much of it is rising. A challenge that I'd like to give to all of you is to time your glitter on how long it takes for it to fall. So let's say you wanted all of your glitter to fall to the bottom in 2 minutes. What do you think you would have to add? how much corn syrup or agave, how much glitter glue, or how much water, what would you need to add to get your glitter to all fall to the bottom by 2 minutes? So that's a challenge that I give to all of you this summer. Would love you to continue to play with these. See if you can time your glitter so it falls by the end of 2 minutes. Play around with the different concoctions and see what you can come up with. But really had a great time with you all today, and really glad that you joined us in making these mind jars. Thanks for participating so fully. It was awesome.
Thank you all. I agree. This is really fun. The one piece of advice I would give everyone is on the list is super glue. If you really like your jar and you want to keep it in that current form to shake up, you can super glue the lid to put it on there. But I would ask that unless you use super glue a lot and your parents know and they're cool with it, that you ask a parent to help. Super glue you can glue your fingers together. It can get rather tricky. So let parents help with that super glue portion. Does anybody else before we go have any last things that they'd like to share about their jar or about their creations? It looks like we got to everyone today, which is exciting. I'm really happy to have spent this time with all of you. Jason, thank you. This has been a STEM family virtual lab from STEM at Home, brought to you by the STEM learning ecosystem and Ties. Thank you for joining us for all of our Maker May labs. These virtual labs have revolved around making makers, inventors, and problem solvers. If you're looking for resources that add to your making experience, we have materials on our website, www.stemecosystems.org, that will walk you through our design process, offer short videos, tutorials, and activity guides from education leaders in our ecosystem. All of these videos, including when you shared your creations, are available online as well. If you're an ecosystem member or partner and have videos or resources you'd like to share on this page on the website, let us know using the link in the chat or email info@stemecosystems.org. We're going to post that one more time for anyone looking to share summer enrichment activities and home labs. We've also partnered with Harvard and the Amgen Foundation to pilot and use the Lab Exchange platform designed by teachers to aid in distance learning. If you'd like to join our community of practice to learn how to use the platform to leverage engaging virtual experiences this summer and during next school year, email us for more information again at info@stemecosystems.org. Please continue to participate and share. I'm Jeremy Shore. You can follow me on Twitter at Jeremy Shore and the STEM Ecosystems at stemecosystems.org. Thank you, Jason and TGR from the Tiger Woods Foundation, David and excuse me, and Gyla. Thank you all. We really appreciate this activity. We will see you next time.